Hello and welcome to Ask Don Anders. Today we're going to be talking about a very common question, and that is, what is a fixed indexed account? Okay, so because these are becoming very, very popular investments, and a lot of people ask us about, so what are these fixed indexed accounts? So the fixed indexed accounts are usually either annuities or CDs that are tied to a market index. So they're fixed, meaning that they have a floor, usually anywhere between 0% up to 1% per year, and then they have a cap. So let's say you're based on the S&P 500 because that's the most common index that they base it on. I mean, there's all kinds. You can go gold and real estate, but let's just say the S&P 500 to keep it simple. So let's say you're based on the S&P 500 and the index cap is 5%, which is pretty average right now as we record this. If the S&P 500 did 10%, you would get 5. But if it did negative 10% and you had a minimum of 1 or 0, you don't lose any money. So it kind of keeps you in that safety area. You know, if you say, listen, I like the idea of growing my money, I like the idea of participating with the market, but I'm willing to give up some of the returns so I don't ever experience the downside, that's a really good account for you. Now, what's the downfall of it? Well, one, they're usually pretty long-term accounts. The average fixed index annuity, which we work with, is anywhere between 5 to 10 years. Okay, so they can be, and some are 12, 15 years, so it all depends. We typically, 10 is what we like to go up to on the max. So they're longer term accounts, and they'll limit liquidity. So they say, okay, if you need money out, you can get out 5% or 7% or 10%. It all depends on the contract that you go with. Some will give you 100% of your premium back at any time, even in the 10 years. But so the liquidity is limited, but also the growth is limited, right? So if you can only make up to 5%, and the S&P 500, as we know, averages much higher than that, well, you're giving up that difference. So people who say, listen, my number one concern is growth, well, you're limited on the growth there. But if your number one concern is growth and you go directly into the S&P 500, well, in 2008, there was a point where the S&P 500 was down over 50%. So just if you're thinking about one of those accounts, just realize it's good if you want safety and growth and don't really care about the liquidity, and are okay with limiting the growth. But if you're okay with all of those factors, it might be a pretty good investment for you. So make sure you talk to your investment advisor. If you want to come in and talk to us, that'd be fine as well. And I hope this was informative and it helps you out in your retirement. Thanks.